Chapter 1306. On the flying boat, little Ching suddenly laughed and said, "Interesting. Sister, that young Master Mu is really interesting. That young Master Wu Jie looks dumb, but he can actually cause such a big commotion. If we didn't see the four of them meet young Master Mu, we might also think that they are young Master Mu's men." Little White smiled and said, "Speaking of interesting, the four brothers we met earlier are even more interesting. Although we can see that they are extraordinary, we can't see their true origins. Previously, someone said that young Master Wu Jie is a strong man from the future. Now, it seems that it might be true. Not only is that Wu Jie, who killed Zhang Liang, a strong man from the future, I'm afraid his brothers are also—" Little Qing covered her mouth and laughed and said, "No wonder they look like country bumpkins. Sister, you can see that there is something wrong with their origins, but you didn't expect it to be so big. The four strong men from the future and young Master Mu are not on the same side." Bai Sujin said, "I'm afraid that young Master Mu has also come to his senses, but he wants to recruit the four strong men. Both sides are temporarily working closely on the stage. Now that the meeting is temporarily adjourned, they might have to show their cards when they go back. Young Master Mu is a big shot from the celestial heavens. He has power and influence, but he doesn't have wings, so it's hard for him to gain influence. On the other hand, the strong men from the future have strength and ability, but they have no foundation. They have their eyes on young Master Mu's flying shovel, and young Master Mu also thinks that their origins are clean." Little Qing frowned and said, "Sister, you're wrong about this. The four of them have very strange origins, coming from the future. Who knows how much karma they have? How can their origins be considered clean?" Bai Sujin shook her head and said, "Little Qing, you're wrong about this. When I was a disciple of the Holy Mother, I once heard a rumor. It is said that there will be a great calamity in the future. There's a cliff downstream of the river of eternity, and after that, no karma can be seen clearly. It is said that it is an immeasurable calamity. In the calamity, all karma will be cleared. It is the slaughter demon ancestor holding the Yuan-Tu sword, using the killing calamity to clear the accumulated karma of the primordial era. That's why no one dares to plot against that calamity, because the more they know, the greater the karma of the killing calamity. Back then, when the goddess deduced the destiny of the primordial world, she had to avoid the two karma of the heaven and earth tribulation. Therefore, the experts from the future will definitely not have any karma with this era, especially the two karma of the heaven and earth tribulation. Heaven and earth's two great karma? Shaoqing furrowed her brows and said, "That's the heavenly court governs the primordial world and reincarnates 3 lives. They're the 2 places with the heaviest karma with all living beings. The 2 great karma of heaven and earth refer to this." Little Qing was horrified. The killing tribulation clears 2 great karma. Doesn't that mean there will be a huge change in the heavenly court and hell? Since experts have come from the future, if we can obtain their memories, wouldn't we be able to find out the key to the great calamity? No wonder Prince Mu is trying so hard to recruit them. Bai Sujin smiled and shook her head. "You're wrong, Little Qing. With the goddess's dignity, it is not impossible for her to calculate the 2 great karma of the heaven and earth tribulation. Furthermore, the heavenly courts are filled with talents and countless mighty figures. Back then, the goddess had reminded us that it is not that we are unable, but that we cannot and do not dare to. We are originally pure immortals. Why do we have to ask about the killing tribulation? The slaughtering demon ancestor raised Yuan high and used the killing tribulation to clear the karma. If they know, they will have desires. If they have desires, they will definitely act. If they act rashly, they will definitely interfere with karma and fall into a trap. From then on, they will not be able to control themselves. Therefore, there are some things that cannot be calculated. Once they are calculated, they will definitely sense it. At that time, they will fall into the schemes of others. It will be like falling into a spider web and will never be able to escape. Furthermore, they might not know anything. If they can come from the future, the karma on them will definitely not be heavy. Otherwise, Wouldn't the karma of the primordial world become a mess if everyone transmigrates? But little Qing wanted to say something, but she was stopped by Sujin. Little Qing, if you return to the great Magi Demon War, you will also be someone from the future. However, how much do you know about the secrets of the great Magi Demon War? Little Qing lowered her head and raised her nose slightly. She looked at Sujin and said dejectedly, "The ancient era is shrouded in mystery. What can I know?" "That's right." Sujin reached out and pulled her sister to her side. She pinched the bridge of her nose and said, "Even in our era, who dares to say that they can see clearly? Even the era we are in is so difficult to see clearly. Who would want to see through the future? Who would be so overconfident?" Little Qing said worriedly, "But those 4 future experts, as well as Prince Mu and Prince Bo-jun, have mysteriously come to this small sky-bearing conference. This is related to Big Sister's tribulation. Aren't you worried?" Sujin stepped out of the pleasure boat and came to the bow of the flying boat. She looked down at the celestial boats that were shuttling back and forth on the sea of clouds and said in a low voice, "My fate stems from my meritorious deeds." Her Majesty said that this is the result of me cultivating good karma and not cultivating heavenly techniques. In the past, I was kind of people everywhere, helping the demonic spirits to reproduce, helping living beings to grow, and helping all living beings to grow. I have contributed to the Emperor of Heaven and gained the favor of the gods. Most of the demon spirits in the surroundings are on good terms with me. I often help the living beings in the mountains and rivers that stand aloof from worldly affairs. Although I have virtue and all living beings, gaining merit and virtue will make my progress in the Tao extraordinary. There are also hidden dangers. Although I'm on good terms with living beings and tribes that stand aloof from worldly affairs, standing aloof from worldly affairs doesn't mean that I'm free from karma. It's just that the karma isn't heavy. If not for that, I would have long been consigned to eternal damnation. The Emperor of Heaven established the merit dharma, bearing the karma of all living beings, and the one who benefits all living beings is God. Bearing the karma of all living beings without the body of a god is bound to result in a backlash. Since I admire the free and unfettered immortal Tao, I'm entangled with the karma of all living beings. Thus, I have great blessings but also great tribulations. Now that I'm suffering from the backlash of karma, if I can avoid it and settle the karma, I'll be able to gradually hide my immortal tracks and live freely in the world. If I can't avoid it, not only me, even the demon spirits and the human race that stand aloof from worldly affairs will be consigned to eternal damnation. This time, little Qing only heard the cause and effect of this tribulation from Sujin, and she was instantly shocked by the danger. She said in horror, "Big Sister is kind to others, so why did you suffer such a great tribulation? Is it wrong to be kind and merciful?" "Little Qing, don't say such foolish words. Big Sister has cultivated to this point and has received countless blessings from all the merit and virtue. Now that there's only a little backlash, it's already a good thing that others can't even imagine. Moreover, merit is also a kind of karma. Merit is the heavenly Tao established by the Emperor of Heaven. It's the divine Tao, and also the Tao of the celestial court. The original intention of the Emperor of Heaven was to bear the karma of all living beings other than the gods who ruled the world on behalf of the celestial court. Therefore, merit is the divine Tao. To receive merit and benefit, you have to bear the responsibility and expectations of all living beings. After accepting the respect and expectations of all living beings, how can you not suffer a backlash if you still want to live freely? Therefore, ever since the great god Pengu created it, the divine Tao has been passed down endlessly. Therefore, if you want to cultivate the Tao of merit to be perfect and flawless, you have to be born and become a part of the celestial court. You have to integrate into the order of the celestial court ruling the primordial world. That's the so-called perfection of merit. Sorting out the heavenly Tao and circulating yin and yang naturally are the Tao of heaven, the Tao of God, and the Tao of merit. governing all living beings and benefiting all living beings, are also the Tao of holy virtue. Merit and holy virtue are not things that itinerant immortals can cultivate. Therefore, you can either be a god and bear the faith and expectations of all living beings. You can also enter the celestial court and integrate into the glorious and powerful divine Tao order. You can let the celestial court bear the burden of being a god for you and rely on the organization. Among the 5 virtues, merit is too high, and the holy virtue is too deep. Those who are not gods can't receive it. Only morality is natural, but it's too ethereal. Merit is too heavy, and virtue is too light. Doing good with virtue is not worthy of the position. The 5 virtues are all the immortal Tao. It's difficult to be perfected without entering the celestial court. Little Qing, my virtue is not worthy of the position. Little Qing was speechless. She had also received the blessing of merit and had benefited greatly. While the other little demons were still struggling in the dust, why did the sisters not have the luck and fortune to be born? The 2 little snake demons had a smooth journey and were even valued by a mighty figure like Old Mother of Mountley. Wasn't she also entangled by merit? However, just like how the gods relied on the celestial court organization, she also relied on the thin and tall figure in front of her. Along the way, all the heavy burdens were shouldered by her. She only needed to follow behind and enjoy the afterglow. Perfect merit. How could be said lightly? With perfect merit, one would naturally be successful in every endeavor and would not be harmed. The great Tao of merit had endless magical uses and was impervious to all tribulations. However, perfect merit was the divine Tao of Dara, which was the realm of the Emperor of Heaven, the 3 sovereigns, and even Goddess Hoodoo and the Supreme Divine Master. Such ancient gods had perfect merit. Only then could they bear the faith and expectations of all living beings. Just like the heavenly Tao, they were worthy of being called the heavenly Tao and the heavenly Tao. Now, the primordial divine Tao and mystic Tao were at the same time. However, in the glorious divine Tao era before the mystic door appeared, the great mystical beings who were called ancestors were called saints, just like those who sat on the lotus platform of Buddhism. Saints had perfect merit. Fan Wu Jie shook his head and said, "What if I say that in the future, resources will be scarce, the great Tao will be hidden, civilization will be regressing, and the path of cultivation will be in a serious decline? Even the path of Dara and the celestial emperors of the celestial heavens will become legends? That is why we have to go against the current and come to this era in search of an opportunity. Brother Mu, do you believe me?" When Imperial Prince Mu heard this, he didn't show any surprise. Instead, he revealed a faint but sad expression. On the other hand, Brahma Wu Jie was surprised. "Brother Mu, aren't you surprised? You're not from this era, so you might not feel it. But in the celestial heavens, who doesn't feel the impending storm? Perhaps those gods of virtue who indulge in the power of the celestial heavens, or those free and unfettered immortals who sing and dance to celebrate peace, don't feel it. But for people like us who are in touch with reality and observe the celestial heavens from a distance, it is obvious. The feeling of the undercurrent and the impending storm couldn't be any more obvious. The Emperor of Heaven has fused with the Tao. The world has changed, and so has the celestial heavens. The silhouette that suppressed everything is slowly fading away, and people's minds are changing. If you stand in that position, this feeling couldn't be any more obvious. Although I am not in power, my father is in charge of Yin and Yang on behalf of Emperor Zhuanqiu. He is the ruler of the celestial heavens. Every day, he tidies up the primordial universe from the sun and moon, the movement of the stars, the rise and fall of vitality, and the affairs of the 3 religions. Is there anyone who knows the undercurrent of the primordial universe better than him? I am by his side every day. So how could I not know? Fan Wu Jie sighed and said, so the general trend of the primordial universe is already this obvious? Crown Prince Mu sighed with emotion and said, this time, I secretly left because I wanted to see the most specific and minute details of the untainted land. The cracks in the heavenly court are becoming more and more obvious. The local tyrants are getting restless, and even the Buddhist cult, dark cult, and demon cult are getting restless. In the celestial heavens, I can only feel the cracks between the factions, but in the primordial universe, I can feel the restless situation after the order established by the Emperor of Heaven was overthrown. There are more and more conflicts between the heavens and humans. I can see the restlessness of the celestial heavens in the kingdoms of the human race. Although the dynasties in the human world can't and don't dare to rebel against the celestial heavens, and although they still call themselves the Son of Heaven, they no longer represent the will of the celestial heavens to govern and lead the people of the human race. They also no longer follow the great Tao of holy virtue established by the Emperor of Heaven. Instead, they gradually take the power to themselves. The Son of Heaven doesn't govern on behalf of the heavens, but rather, he wants to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. They are beginning to be dissatisfied with the order established by the celestial heavens, and they're dissatisfied with the orders given by the celestial heavens, even if they are gods. And among the more primitive tribes, the human tribes led by the witch sect have also begun to be dissatisfied with the restrictions placed on them by the gods to obtain resources. The celestial heavens are restricting the development of the human civilization. Not to mention the demons and barbarians. Even the gods are dissatisfied. They hate the greed of the people, and they are tired of the destruction of the world, nature, and the operation of the great Tao. The gods who adhere to the divine Tao and run the sun and moon are dissatisfied with the destruction of nature by the people. Meanwhile, the gods who run the human Tao are involved in the cause and effect of the human Tao. Gradually, they're tainted by the desires of the human Tao, and they can no longer maintain their rationality and neutrality. My father has long noticed that the order of the celestial heavens is in chaos. Tung Wang Kung thinks that the celestial heavens are too involved, and everything is for the sake of the people. The Emperor of Heaven has decided that the gods will establish their lives for the people, and the people will establish their hearts for the gods. They come from the people, go to the people, and bear the expectations and cause and effect of the people. It's too naive. The celestial heavens can't bear the huge cause and effect of the people in the primordial universe. Even the Emperor of Heaven can't bear it. That's why he joined the Tao and left. My father and Tung Wang Kung both feel that the celestial heavens needs to change. The matters of the living beings should be handed over to the living beings themselves. The celestial heavens only needs to control the fate of all living beings. The celestial heavens does not need all living beings to feel that the celestial heavens are everywhere. Instead, it needs all living beings to not feel that it is everywhere. There is no need for all living beings to be united. There are too many living beings who have embarked on the path of cultivation. Because they know how to cultivate, they feel that the celestial heavens are restricting and controlling them. Because they know how to cultivate, all living beings are uneasy. The Emperor of Heaven is happy to cultivate with all living beings. He even hopes that all living beings will succeed in their cultivation and achieve the Tao. He believes that the celestial heavens and all living beings are of the same mind. The more intelligent all living beings are, the stronger and more perfect the power that can change the world and reshape everything will be until they walk on the path of the perfect world in the Emperor of Heaven's heart. However, Emperor Zhuanshu and Tung Wang Kung are not as optimistic as the Emperor of Heaven. Or rather, they think pessimistically that the primordial universe can't accommodate too many powerful and wise almighties. Cultivation will only create too many unstable factors in the eyes of the celestial heavens. The gods of the celestial heavens have long been fed up with those greedy, reckless, cruel, and even ignorant and vicious cultivators. They cut off the spirit veins, They harvest without restraint. They kill each other. They slaughter the weak. They are demons. Some gods want to return to the pastoral era of the ancient primordial universe, the simple and natural era, the era without too many prosperous cultivation civilizations. Some gods want to control these uncontrollable factors, to build a stricter order, to build a stricter hierarchy. This kind of thinking is called Jedi Tiantong. A bolt of lightning split Brahma Wu Jie's confusion. He murmured, Jedi Tiantong. Yes, Jedi Tiantong. Cut off the world tree, control the path of cultivation, and separate the heavens and the people. The gods who run the great Tao are high above, manipulating everything and managing all living beings. The gods who are involved in the affairs of all living beings collude with local tyrants and cultivation sects to collect the path of cultivation in the world. Resources are concentrated, and the heavens and the people are separated. They cut off the path of advancement for all living beings. Brahma Wu Jie thought, isn't that the current state of the Brahma heaven realm, or the state of the entire age of heavens? Is the celestial heavens really destroyed in the age of heavens? Brahma Wu Jie shuddered. Or is it already high above Jedi Tiantong, looking down on all the heavens? Prince Mu said in confusion, yes. Jedi Tiantong, collect the spirit veins and spirit veins of the world to the heaven realm. All the essence of the primordial universe is brought up to the heaven realm by those great gods. All the immortals have to ascend to the heaven realm, and then open up the 9 heavens, making the great heaven the highest heaven, and the 8 heavens below it to accommodate immortals of different levels. Those tyrants are separated from the foundation of their growth. A gold immortal can act like a tyrant in the primordial universe, but in a world full of gold immortals, what is he worth? Clear and separate the classes, leaving only the mortals who cannot become immortals in the primordial universe, and promoting the elites to become immortals. Then, using the 8 heavens to imprison the immortals in different systems, dividing them and absorbing them. Tung Wang Kung's idea was to establish a perfect, unbreakable rule. Emperor Zhuanqu's Jedi Tiantong only hoped that humans and gods would not interfere with each other, cutting off the world tree, raising the height of the heaven realm, allowing the divine power to operate more covertly, and eliminating the conflicts between humans and gods. Tung Wang Kung's Jedi Tiantong was prepared to cut off the path of advancement for all living beings. Speaking of which, Tung Wang Kung is more ambitious. So, even though Tung Wang Kung was demoted and reincarnated, there are still so many gods and imperial emperors following his path. Brahma Wu Jie thought more. So, Emperor Xiang came from the future, but still wanted to control the heaven realm. Did he not know that the heaven realm would collapse in the future? Unless he did not know if the heaven realm would collapse in the future, because once his plan was completed, the myriad heavens could become a world after Jedi Tiantong, and there would be a high and mighty heaven realm looking down on everything. If that's really the case, then Emperor Ziyang's plan could be said to have been realized perfectly. This is because all living beings do not feel that there is a heavenly court above their heads that restricts their freedom. Even us Tao Lords do not feel it. The myriad heavens and the primordial world have shattered. Aren't they just isolated small worlds? Such small worlds are indeed easier to control. This is because even us Tao Lords are just blindly exploring the realm sea. If the heavenly court could really control everything, they might not even be able to sense it. Was controlling the fate of all living beings a god? This was the first time Brahma Wu Jie felt such deep fear. It's time to take action. In front of the divine mountain, where the Milky Way Navy was stationed, a tall figure said softly. Demon King Scale Dragon followed behind the tall figure and looked at the hidden array diagram in surprise. He whispered, "Brother, why did you bring the 9 planets formation diagram here? It's not the complete 9 planets formation diagram. It's just a variation of the 9 planets formation. It's called the 9 planets heaven shrouding formation. It can isolate the 2 realms and hide everything. Once this formation is activated, The Milky Way Navy will not be able to react in time. The 9 planets formation diagram is one of the core array formations of the Divine Court's heavenly cycle stellar array. It will definitely be difficult for the Milky Way Navy to break through it. Bull Demon King held his hands behind his back as he slowly walked up the stairs and entered the palace where Prince Mu was. Commandant Sheen of the Milky Way Navy was suddenly summoned to his side palace by Prince Bo-jun. This was an extremely abrupt action. If not for the fact that Prince Bo-jun was a patroller of the heavenly courts and that the Milky Way Navy was responsible for cooperating, Commandant Sheen would not have come at all. However, just as he stepped into Prince Bo-jun's side palace, he suddenly felt a change in space. The 9 stars suddenly fell towards Prince Mu's Tunghua Palace. The entire Jade Palace turned dark and gloomy, isolated from the world. Commandant Sheen raised his head to look at the stunned Prince Bo-jun. Countless interesting expressions flashed across his face. Finally, they turned sinister as he said coldly, "Prince Bo-jun, you call me here at the right time." Heavenly Eye, who was beside him, forced out a divine beam from his eyes. It shot straight into the darkness that was obscured by the 9 planets heaven-shrouding formation diagram. The divine beam advanced a few feet before vanishing into the darkness. Heavenly, I was sweating profusely as he said anxiously, "This array formation is unusual." Commandant Sheen raised his head and said, "It is unusual. The heavenly cycle stellar array is shaking. The stars are the political power of the heavenly courts. The Milky Way Navy is the mighty army that the heavenly courts use to suppress the countless stars in the Milky Way. Who else can shake the power of the stars in front of the Milky Way Navy?" Heavenly, I was stunned for a moment before coming to a realization. He gritted his teeth and said, "The remnants of the demon court, the heavenly cycle stellar array." Prince Bo-jun was truly stunned. He stood up and hurried a few steps to look in the direction of Tunghua Palace. His mind was in a daze, and he actually didn't know what to do. After a moment of blankness, he came back to his senses and said firmly, "There are demons attacking the camp. Commandant Sheen, quickly protect Prince Mu." Commandant Sheen's expression turned even colder as he said coldly, "The remnants of the demon court attacked with the heavenly cycle stellar array, and I was summoned out of Tunghua Palace by His Highness. Now that I'm isolated by the array, how does His Highness expect me to protect Prince Mu?" Prince Bo-jun was also muddle-headed as he said, "Commandant Sheen, do you think that I transferred you away from Prince Mu's side?" As soon as he said this, his heart sank. No matter what the heavenly courts did in public, they couldn't bring it to the surface. Now that he had pointed out the distrust and political division, not only did he break the rules, but he also left himself with no room to maneuver. How could he say this? He should pretend that it didn't exist, not to mention that he didn't do it. Even if he did, he should pretend that it didn't exist. It was best to pretend that such a possibility didn't exist. Pointing out the irreconcilable conflict between the 2 princes was also to break through the political resistance of the heavenly courts. Originally, this layer of political resistance could be an advantage for Prince Bo-jun to protect himself, but now that it was pointed out, it became a disadvantage instead. In the future, if Celestial Emperor Donghua's faction wanted to pursue this matter, they only needed to lightly mention what he said today. He said again, "Since Prince Bo-jun has this worry, we should clear his name." Then, the political resistance of needing to prove that Prince Bo-jun might have colluded with the demon race to assassinate another prince became Prince Bo-jun's dilemma of needing to prove that he didn't have such intentions. Chapter 1308. Tunghua Palace fell into darkness, and the sun, moon, and stars in the sky disappeared. Imperial Prince Mu woke up with a start. Fan Wu Jie looked up and saw that Tunghua Palace was already surrounded by a dark void. 2 figures were knocking on the steps in front of Tunghua Palace. One was tall and mighty, the other tall and thin. Their shadows were long and twisted like dragons and snakes. Fan Wu Jie recognized Demon King Jiao at first glance and stepped forward to protect Imperial Prince Mu. Imperial Prince Mu looked at the 2 monster great sages walking toward him and said in realization, "So, Demon King Jiao is here for me." No wonder Demon King Jiao would condescend to participate in the Sky-Bearing Conference. Imperial Prince Mu smiled and said, "The other should be a big shot of the monster race, a future great sage of the monster race. Now, he's condescending to kill me, a prince with no power or influence in the celestial heavens. What a surprise! To be attacked by two monster leaders. Even if I die, it won't be in vain." Imperial Prince, you underestimate yourself too much. Demon King Jiao laughed. Although Imperial Prince's cultivation is weak, his status is extraordinary and very important. Your father, Celestial Emperor Donghua, is a right-hand man of Celestial Emperor Zhuanxu and the vice-ruler of the celestial heavens. Now, there's also Celestial Emperor Ziyang's beloved son. Today, Imperial Prince's death is destined to cause a mess. Imperial Prince Mu said indifferently, "You underestimate Ziyang too much. If Imperial Prince Bo Jun can't explain clearly, how about letting him be assassinated by the monster race as well?" Demon King Jiao was silent for a long time before he laughed. He really can do it. Unfortunately, he doesn't have to. Beside Demon King Jiao, Bull Demon King said, "Because I brought the murderer of Imperial Prince Mu today." Bull Demon King waved his hand and tossed a small white snake to the ground. Imperial Prince Mu glanced at the white snake and said in understanding, "A meritorious monster, but as a scapegoat, she's still too weak." Halfway through his sentence, Imperial Prince Mu saw the calm expressions on the two's faces and said with relief, "That's right. Imperial Prince Bo Jun doesn't care. He will definitely do as you wish and frame her, even inciting a massacre of the monster race." Trust and peace between two races with deep grudges are fragile to begin with. It is far too easy for ambitious people like you to break this fragile trust, but you actually have the heart to use so many demons as sacrifices. Although Imperial Prince Mu was naive, he was no fool. He naturally knew that once the war between humans and demons broke out, the first to suffer would not be the heavenly court, nor would it be the powerful forces of the demon race like Demon King Jiao and Demon King Ox. Instead, it would be by Suzhen, who was caught in the middle. This unwavering fist power, as time passed, gathered into a torrent that crushed everything. When it reached the middle of the body of reincarnation, it was already enough to crush Fan Wu Jie's divine body. Fan Wu Jie could divide the damage over time, but Demon King's fist power could transcend time, unwavering. Demon King's power had already pierced through time. This unwavering power allowed him to lightly press down on a boulder like a mortal's finger, but that finger power would never dissipate. Bit by bit, it deepened on the boulder until it pierced through the boulder. This was the unwavering power. Fan Wu Jie's divine body instantly shattered, turning into a bloody mist. Reincarnation. Fan Wu Jie could only use his great supernatural power to reincarnate. But Demon King's expression did not change in the slightest. He only punched out again, crushing the reincarnated Fan Wu Jie once again. Fan Wu Jie was completely helpless. Demon King's unchanging power completely restrained his transformations. What Demon King was least afraid of were those fancy transformations of supernatural powers. No matter what kind of supernatural power you used, no matter how many transformations you used, he still only needed to punch after punch to crush it. The unwavering power meant that if there was no way to instantly crush Demon King, he would be able to gather a monstrous power and beat you to death. Could Fan Wu Jie instantly crush Demon King? He could not. So he could only be beaten to death by Demon King. Among the people he had met, perhaps only Demon Ancestor Luo of Destruction could crush Demon King's perseverance. Demon King's perseverance was that as long as he walked step by step, he would definitely reach the end. And the great Tao of Destruction itself was the end. The great Tao of Destruction would not give Demon King the chance to walk step by step. Demon King's fists were the fists of the foolish old man. the fists of the bull's temper, the fists of the straight. But the power of time was most powerless against the fists of the straight. So Fan Wujie was completely helpless against Demon King. He had already been crushed hundreds of times, and Demon King did not care about his clumsy punches. He only wanted to prove that he could obliterate the undying cycle of reincarnation, that he was firm and unwavering, that he could surpass reincarnation. Demon King Jiao could feel the unwavering strength of Demon King, and he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. This made him think back to when they were fighting for the position of Great Sage. Demon King Jiao had also punched like this, and other than the mysterious and unscrupulous seventh brother, everyone else had been trampled like this, until the old bull had punched until there was no one else in front of him. As the second brother, Demon King Jiao had been pressed to the ground and rubbed. This was not a good memory. Demon King Jiao walked past Fan Wujie, who was being beaten by Demon King Jiao, and came before Imperial Prince Mu, whose face was slightly pale. He smiled and said in a low voice, "I am the great sage of the ocean cover, and I am here to send you on your way." Imperial Prince Mu smiled sadly and said, "So you are already a great sage? How many great sages does the demon race have? And how many of them are here to send me off today?" 6 of the 7 great sages are here. Demon King Jiao gave Imperial Prince Mu some time. Have the other great sages gone to stop Xingyangzi, Butcher, and Commandant Qin? The demon race really thinks highly of me, shepherd boy. Imperial Prince Mu laughed loudly. Then let's fight. Bai Sujin was suppressed by the old bull's fist intent. That unwavering strength made it hard for her to breathe. At this moment, her eyes were filled with grief. The white snake's body was small and crystalline, and it was actually somewhat adorable. Just as she summoned a bit of her demonic power, it was easily dispersed by the power left behind by the old bull. The greatest characteristic of Demon King Jiao's dermic powers was its stubbornness, as if it would not dissipate at all. It was as stubborn as its master's bull's temper. She struggled with all her might, and when she looked up again, she saw Demon King Jiao's trident break through Imperial Prince Mu's immortal light and stab into his chest. Imperial Prince Mu cannot die. This was the only thought in the white snake's mind. If Imperial Prince Mu dies and I am framed, that Imperial Prince Bojun, who is colluding with the demons, will go on a rampage without any qualms. When that happens, all the demons I know will die. Those demons that stand aloof from worldly affairs will be embroiled in the calamity, and the peaceful coexistence between humans and demons will be broken. Bai Sujin's tribulation stems from the karma of all living beings. It will definitely affect all living beings. Bai Sujin thought of those demon spirits that were truly grateful to her. Those demon spirits that stood aloof from worldly affairs and lived a peaceful and peaceful life. Even humans, those young and ignorant demon spirits, had called her Queen Mother White Snake. They had given her their favorite things, be it a beautiful flower, a clumsy clay sculpture, or a crude toy. Bai Sujin had protected them due to her kindness. She had protected the weak demon spirits and even the human tribes. However, after receiving Old Mother of Mount Li's guidance and understanding the great Tao of merit, she had alienated them. Originally, this kind of instinctive kindness should have dissolved the darkness and coldness of her snake nature, and she would have become a goddess with a snake body of Yin like Empress Hua and Hutu. However, because she had understood cultivation and walked on the path of the mystic door, these karma and expectations had become restraints and burdens. After bearing the expectations of all living beings, I have to bear the responsibility of all living beings. Only the one who protects his people is God. The fate of God and his people is one. The one who bears the burden of all living beings is God. The one who is compassionate towards all living beings is God. God isn't emotionless, but he is sentimental. If God was emotionless, why would he protect? Why would he be compassionate? Why would Goddess Niwa sacrifice herself to mend the heavens? Why would Goddess Hutu transform into reincarnation? This is caused by merit. For the immortal Tao, it is a tribulation, but for the divine Tao, is a responsibility. Tribulation can be avoided, but not responsibility. Today's tribulation, I will not only survive for myself, but also bear the fate of the demon spirits and humans who have high expectations of me, who believe in me, and who worship me. For them, I will risk my life to stop you. 7 great sages. The divine light of merit floated on by Sujin's body and settled down bit by bit, gaining weight and quality. This did not seem to change anything, but it seemed to have changed something in by Sujin's nature. On Mount Li, Incongruence Divine Mother was immersing herself in meditation. Suddenly, she stopped and smiled. In the void hometown, Incongruence Divine Mother opened her eyes and looked lovingly at the untainted land. In the 9 luminaries sky-covering formation, Yuan Yu knocked the Lion Camel King into the dust. He was expressionless as he glanced at the Rock Demon King, King Yu Luo. The Shuaitu King had a murderous look on his face. He raised a boundless sea of blood and faced the Rock Demon King. Ajadi raised his sword Qi and pierced through the King Yu Luo's psyche. The Rock Demon King stared coldly at the Lion Camel King, who had been knocked into the dust by Yuan Yu. The surrounding sea of blood kept pressing down. The Rock Demon King's expression finally changed. With a hint of seriousness, he flicked out a jade talisman. In the next moment, the innate, inextinguishable divine light tore the sea of blood. Wind and thunder roared, and its momentum melted into a piece of mixed essence. The mixed essence shook and tore the sea of blood apart, forcing out a bloody shadow. The Shuaitu King's escaping light was dim, and his figure was in a mess. If it was not for a faintly discernible shadow of the blood Lianhua protecting his real body, even his demon body would have been beaten back into the bloody light. In the next moment, the jade talisman met the sea-calming divine pearl. Under Yuan Yu's intentional restraint, it was a draw. Prince Mu's pale golden blood sprayed out and splashed on by Sujin. The blood of the descendant of celestial Emperor Dong, Hua, carried a hint of warmth and yang qi. At this moment, the talisman given by the old mother of Mount Li on the white snake was splashed by the blood of the emperor, and a hint of purple qi appeared. Chapter 1309. Looking at the bull demon king's cold and indifferent eyes, Fan Wu Jie reincarnated again. This time, he turned into a Kuan Peng, and in the quiet and dark void of the 9 glory sky, shrouding formation, he spread his wings and flew high, using the great divine power of time that merged with the true form of the Kuan Peng. The Kuan was born of water, the true water of time was also water, and the river of time was also a river. The Kuan turned into a Peng and leaped from the river of time, hitting the surface of the water and transcending the river of time. This was the great divine power of Shi Kuan Peng transformation. But Fan Wu Jie did not transcend the river of time. His tiny mystic fruit of Tao was just a glimpse of the Kuan fish temporarily leaping out of the river of time. So the Shi Kuan he transformed into could not transform into a Peng, and the 2 fins turned into wings, like a half Kuan and half Peng. The body of the Peng Peng was not complete, but this temporarily leaping out of the river of time was enough to make Fan Wu Jie's existence disappear temporarily. He stood above the river of time, as if he had temporarily returned to the sea of chaos in the depths of the ultimate. This was the great divine power of the Peng Peng bloodline that he had comprehended, and the mysterious fusion of the sea of chaos above the river of time. He is actually not in this time and space. The bull demon king stood in the dark void. Tunghua Palace had already been smashed by the battle between the two. Fan Wu Jie reincarnated hundreds of times and barely managed to use the great divine power of Shi Kuan Peng transformation to escape to above time. The prohibition that the great god Zhu Long had laid down worked. At this moment, the chaos became an incomprehensible chaos to Fan Wu Jie, but Fan Wu Jie also became a person who did not exist in the chaos. But the bull demon king still raised his hand, and with a simple punch, he imprinted on the heart of Fan Wu Jie, who was not in this world, not in the past, not in the future. In the chaos sea, A streak of chaos chi imprinted the old ox's simple, straightforward, and indestructible power. Even if it became an incomprehensible chaos, it was a power that could not be covered. Chaos could corrode everything, turning the foundation of the existence of Taiji into an incomprehensible chaos. Existence and chaos were originally two opposing states. Zhulong turned the river of time into the sea of chaos to prevent the great mediums of chaos from tampering with time and Dara from attacking from the past and the future. Even the old bull could not change the power of his punch into the chaos. If the bull demon king's power could split the chaos, he would have become Dara long ago. But this did not stop the bull demon king from using this incomprehensible power to crush Fan Wujie's Shikuan body. Fan Wujie's stunned face was just a mass of chaos in the eyes of the bull demon king. The essence of these great divine abilities were all using the torture and polishing of the true self, deepening the definition of the self in the most intense, the most frightening changes. Not the slightest bit would change. The reincarnation would wear down the essence of the true self again and again. But was it not a deepening of the self? So the great divine ability of reincarnation that was derived from this question, on the other hand, when the reincarnation continuously wore down the true self, it was also a deepening and cultivation of this question. But Fan Wujie did not have this awareness. He only felt deep despair and sorrow. It was as if he had turned his own essence into a steel ball. Accepting the old bull's unwavering polishing and hammering, it was a kind of destruction, but also a kind of molding and tempering. Fan Wujie could only do everything he could to deepen the essence of his existence. He wanted to do everything that made up the existence of Fan Wujie, to hand over everything to the next reincarnation. But even so, he could not avoid losing something. The reincarnation was ultimately not comparable to the 9 deaths reincarnation heaven deceiving. The latter had the perfect technique developed by Patriarch River Styx, which deepened the complete bearing of the self. While the former was perfect in theory, it lacked the most crucial method and technique. One was the Tao. One was the law, the 9 questions of the netherworld was the Tao, and the reincarnation heaven deceiving was the law. How to break down the elements that made up the self, recombine them, and entrust them. And this core was the everlasting information. Because the information was everlasting, the self and the true self would not be destroyed. As long as one could deepen the true self, sublimate the definition of the self, a concept, a name, any bit of information related to the self, it could reconstruct the complete information of the self. But Fan Wujie just so happened to lack the relevant method of the everlasting information. He could not retrieve his own information, and then the destroyed, stripped self would really disappear forever. If this goes on, Fan Wujie will be destroyed sooner or later. After being punched by the Bull Demon King, the Fan Wujie, who was quickly reincarnated thousands of times, it was unknown how much of his essence was himself now. He had yet to change himself, because the Bull Demon King killed him too quickly, leaving him no time to interrogate himself and think about who he really was. All his thoughts were used to think about how to survive. He had no time to think about the grand question of who am I. All the core of his thoughts were condensed into a common concept, an idea. Survival. He had long forgotten about the rest. What young Master Mu, what Shui Tu, what lifeless Yang, what destruction of the heavenly court, Emperor Xiang, the great secret of the ruins of End, what Bull Demon King. All of it had been forgotten. It was obliterated. What was left of Fan Wujie was perhaps a name and the great supernatural power of reincarnation that he used to survive. At this time, the simplest Fan Wujie had actually touched upon something that reincarnation could not destroy. He saw a ray of divine light in the deep darkness of endless death, in the darkness of reincarnation. That ray of light was weak but firm. In the next moment, Fan Wujie was reincarnated, and that little bit of divine light leaped out and reflected into the eyes of the Bull Demon King. Innate, inextinguishable divine light. The Bull Demon King was slightly stunned, and a thought flashed across his mind. Innate spiritual treasure. The divine light turned into a Taoist with a blurry face, but definitely not old. With a light palm, the Bull Demon King could only summon a whip, and also manifested the inextinguishable divine light to block the blow, but the Bull Demon King's body still shook violently, and his brute force was almost scattered. If not for the whip-shaped, innate spiritual treasure blocking it, he would probably have been seriously injured. The divine light was just a blow, and it did not linger. In a flash, it turned into a stream of light and flew out of the 9 lights heaven-covering formation. Only the Bull Demon King was left standing, and he said solemnly, "He actually has an innate spiritual treasure, and he doesn't seem to know it? We, the 7 great sages, are the backbone of the demon race appointed by His Majesty. We are to carry the hope of the demon race for His Majesty before the return of the divine court. That's why each of us was given an innate spiritual treasure. Where did this person come from? The nature of that innate spiritual treasure is very high. Just a little bit of it was instinctively able to escape the heavenly cycle stars formation. It's definitely not ordinary. Prince Mu's bloodline was extraordinary, and his cultivation method was also the top dharma of the heavenly court. He was the son of celestial Lord Donghua, and his talent was also among the top in the primordial world. His strength was not inferior to that of his generation, but he was still too young, even though he was already at the Tao Lord realm, even though he was extraordinary at his age. But the Dragon Demon King had been discriminated against by the dragon race, and he had killed his way out of the most dangerous environment. He was the most outstanding figure of the demon race after the destruction of the divine court. The silver lunar true water intertwined to form a jade plate, drawing in a distant light and shadow. The jade plate projected the magnificent Milky Way Navy's fleet scattered in all directions in the bright destruction region. At the highest point of the fleet's bridge, a bronze mirror shone in all directions, its light sweeping across everything. Wherever the mirror light went, countless demonic spirits were beaten back to their original forms. Some of the demonic spirits with resentment and sinful chi were immediately struck down by a bolt of divine lightning from the Navy's huge warship in the sky. Their souls were shattered and they died instantly. The demon revealing mirror, by Sujin, said anxiously. The Monkey King nodded. Under the demon revealing mirror, even the old demons, great demons, and demon kings will be beaten back to their original forms. This is the demon fighting equipment set by the Emperor Heaven to suppress the demons in the 4 directions. Old Bull still miscalculated. The Monkey King shook his head. The Heavenly Court's demon-suppressing army hasn't moved for a long time. Even Old Bull himself has forgotten the might of the Milky Way Navy. The Heavenly Court's demon-suppressing army first killed the sinful demons. Now, the inescapable net has locked down the entire Brightway region, as well as the 4 other regions. On the first day, we used the demon-revealing mirror to illuminate the entire area, causing all demons without merit to revert to their original forms. Then we used heavenly thunder to execute the most sinful of them. Occasionally, there would be demon kings and greater demons who would struggle to hold on. Immediately, demon binding chains would descend to capture them, bind them to the demon-slaying platform, and behead them with a single slash of the saber. In a single day, we killed countless rampaging demons. Bai Sujin said anxiously, "Many of the demonic spirits stand aloof from worldly affairs and do not go against the heavenly court's laws. They also have merit to protect them. Great sage, have you seen their whereabouts?" The Monkey King shook his head. The heavenly court is also concerned about their reputation. The merit laws are part of the heavenly court system. The demonic spirits with a small amount of merit will naturally not be restrained by the demon revealing mirror and killed by the heavenly thunder. These are all left behind by the Emperor Heaven. They are inscribed with the laws of the heavenly Tao. Merit can be used to offset the heavenly tribulation and exempt them from the demon fighting equipment. If those demonic spirits have merit to protect them, as you said, even the merest amount of merit will be enough to escape this tribulation. Bai Sujin came to a realization. So, Great Sage Ping Tian and the others need me. The Monkey King nodded. If they force the heavenly court to slay the demons, it will be difficult for them to slash the heads of the demonic spirits that rely on the heavenly court. Merit is the golden plate that allows them to avoid death. The laws set by the Emperor Heaven in the past will not be so easily exploited. Therefore, only a demon like you, who had a lot of merit and has a close relationship with the demonic spirits that rely on the heavenly court, will have an excuse to kill those demonic spirits that rely on the heavenly court. Now, the Milky Way Navy still knows their limits. They used the excuse of Prince Mu's disappearance and did not find his corpse, which is why they did not expand the demon-slaying mission. But sooner or later, they will not be able to withstand the pressure. Now, the gods under Prince Bo-jun have already used the excuse of capturing you to start attacking the demonic spirits that rely on the heavenly court. The situation is still considered mild now, but once one of them cannot withstand the humiliation and retaliates, they will immediately be suppressed with an iron fist. The situation will only become more and more severe. You don't have much time left. Bai Sujin immediately stood up. She looked at the unconscious Lord Mu boy and said with a headache, but now that the crown prince Mulan has turned into a mortal, it's equivalent to a reincarnation. Who can recognize him? It shouldn't be difficult for Emperor Donghua or the group of Yinluo in the underworld or Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Even if others can see some clues, they won't be able to produce any evidence. Other than his father, Emperor Donghua, the only ones who can prove his identity are the Yin gods in the underworld. Other than that, even if others can recognize him, they won't be able to convince others, said the Monkey King lightly. He suddenly chuckled. For example, I can prove that he is Prince Mu, but in the heavenly court, can you say that the Monkey King can prove it? Even if I stand out, the heavenly court doesn't want to kill me. That's good enough. Will they listen to my words? No matter what, I can't let so many innocent demon spirits die because of me. Bai Sujin's eyebrows showed a hint of determination, diluting her originally weak and injured appearance. Lady, it's not because of you that they are in trouble, but because someone wants them dead. That's why they were chosen. The Monkey King sighed. This old cow is not as cute as the previous one. Sigh. Just as the white snake was silent and trying to think of a solution, Prince Mu, who was on the rock, slowly woke up. He looked around blankly and asked in confusion, "Where is this? Who are you? Where's my cow?" He stood up and looked around in fear. "Where's my cow? How did I lose my cow?" The Monkey King whispered into Bai Sujin's ear. After his essence soul reincarnated, Prince Mu is equivalent to his previous life. He has no memories. I used the light of eternity divine power to graft his life onto a shepherd boy's body. Now he thinks he is an ordinary shepherd boy. Go and fool him. Make him stop shouting. Cow, the shepherd boy called out loudly. Yes. He pinched his nose and imitated a cow's cry. He stuffed his fingers into his mouth and whistled in a practiced manner. Seeing the white clothed Bai Sujin slowly walk towards him, the shepherd boy asked in a daze, "Sister, do you see my cow?" "I think I lost my cow." Bai Sujin held her forehead and felt the exhaustion that came from her heart. She said helplessly, "Think on the bright side. Maybe it's not that you lost your cow. What if you lost it?" "Eh." The shepherd boy let out an exclamation before coming to his senses. "Where's this? So in my previous life, I was the son of an immortal in heaven. Because of my death, he wanted to kill all the demons in the world. In order to save the demons in the world, he wanted me to realize my previous life and restore my memories. To stop the heavenly courts from slaughtering the demons?" The shepherd boy pointed at himself and said, Being an immortal in heaven is not bad. But what does the death of the demons have to do with me? Bai Sujin rubbed her forehead weakly and said, "It has to do with me. So, you help me recover my memories and realize my previous life. After I recover my memories, I will help you stop the massacre of the demons." The shepherd boy concluded very clearly. "Then how'd I die in my previous life?" the shepherd boy asked in puzzlement. Bai Sujin fell silent for a moment before saying, "He was killed by the strongest demon, the great sage of ocean cover." The other 5 great sages also participated. The atmosphere fell into an awkward silence. After a while, the shepherd boy said, "I do not have any objections, but after I recover my memories and realize my previous life, it is hard to say if I will admit to it. Don't blame me when the time comes." The white snake said in a speechless manner, "Prince Mu will not have any objections because he knows this is just a conspiracy. Then help me find my previous life and become an immortal," the shepherd boy said cheerfully. Bai Sujin turned her head to look at the Monkey King. The Monkey King helplessly shrugged and said, "How would I know that his personality would change so much in 2 lives? The secrets of samsara are indeed unfathomable. It is hard to know. Great sage, you are powerful. Do you have any way to make him realize his previous life?" Bai Sujin pleaded. The Monkey King frowned and pondered for a long time before saying, "There are many ways, but they are all very difficult. To realize his previous life, the best way is naturally in the netherworld. Be it the connate numinous treasure 3 live stone, the wheel of reincarnation mirror, or the 10 halls yin luo, the heavenly lord of salvation from misery, or Ksiddhartha Bodhisattva, they can all be done." If you want to enter, you can only go through the Ghost Gate. How the soul enters the netherworld is a secret. In the heavenly realm, where the heavenly court is located, there are a few strange divine mountains that can be explored, such as the East Pole Tree, the West Pole Kunlun, the South Pole Sky Pillar, and the North Pole Wilderness. But where is the Ghost Gate? In the middle of the sea, there is Du Shuo Mountain. On top of it, there is a peach tree that stretches for 3,000 miles. In the northeast of Beijing, there is the Ghost Gate, where thousands of ghosts enter and exit. The 2 gods, Shun Tu and Yulei, live there. The Monkey King chewed on a peach and said, "I once went to the Ghost Gate to steal peaches from the big peach tree. I was chased away by Shun Tu and Yulei several times. Although we are not friends, with my martial uncle's face, we can secretly follow that kid's soul in. I think the 2 gods will turn a blind eye to it. The 10 halls of Yinluo are nothing. They are the masters of the netherworld in name, but in reality, they are all people. They don't have to give them face. Old son, don't care about them. Only the 2 gods, Shun Tu and Yulei, are the great magi who followed Her Majesty Hutu. They are like Xing Tian, De Yi, Quafu, and Chiyu. Back then, the netherworld was still called Yuta City. Before reincarnation was established, they guarded the gates of Yudu City for Her Majesty Hutu. Now, the darkness of Yudu City has been turned into the netherworld by Her Majesty Hutu. The gates of Yudu City have also become the gates of hell. They are still guarding in front of the gates. They are the first barrier of the netherworld. No god can stop them. I can't easily sneak in. Sai, is that kid dead yet?" The Monkey King pointed at Shepherd Boy, who was still twitching. Bai Sujin went over to check Shepherd Boy's pulse and shook her head. "He just fainted. There's still some time before he stops breathing." At this moment, the void suddenly split open. Yuan Yu and company came out one after another. They saw Shepherd Boy hanging from the tree and Bai Sujin, who was testing her breathing. The 3 of them were stunned by the absurd scene before they reacted. The Shuetu King raised his butcher knife and said angrily, "This demoness is indeed up to no good. She even plotted to harm Prince Mu's life." Bai Sujin hurriedly explained, "Fellow Taoists, please wait. If you wait any longer, the kid will stop breathing." The Shuetu King glared and said, "You still want to stall for time? Ajadi, go save Prince Mu." I'll settle the score with this woman. Baisujin could only watch as Ajadi went forward to untie the white silk. Ajadi pressed down on Shepherd Boy's chest and frowned. He felt that something was amiss. When did Prince Mu become immortal? He used his dermic powers to send a wisp of his aura over. Shepherd Boy coughed twice and caught his breath. He slowly woke up. The Monkey King watched coldly from his side. That's right, Shepherd Boy had been saved by them, but he would die again. However, what did that have to do with the Monkey King? He did not want to waste his breath explaining. They were just two blood fiends, juniors of the grim demon lineage. In terms of seniority, the Monkey King could be considered their ancestor. Shepherd Boy, Lord focused and groaned. Is this the underworld? Ah, what a strong sun. It's making me dizzy. The Shwetu King looked up at the huge moon in the sky and extended his hand to touch Shepherd Boy's forehead. He said in puzzlement, "This person looks like Prince Mu, but he's immortal. Furthermore, his essence, soul, and bloodline are different from Prince Mu's. What kind of divine power or dharma spell is this? Could it be the samsara of 3 lives divine power? Is his brain spoiled?" Yuan Yu sighed and said, "We are friends after all. Even if his brain is spoiled, we cannot let him fall into the hands of Prince Bo Jun." Baisujin finally had a chance to explain. After she told him the whole story, Yuan Yu said solemnly, "Prince Mu suffered a strike from a connate numinous treasure. His essence soul was shattered by the inextinguishable spiritual light. Indeed, he can only be saved with the help of the samsara laws. However, to restore his memories of his past life, or even return to his past life, other than Her Majesty Hoodoo's mercy, the only way is to seek help from the demon ancestor river Styx." The Shwetu King said with a sad face, "It has always been the elder ancestor who wants us to do something. How can we have the face to ask the elder ancestor to help us?" Wu Sheng rolled his eyes and said, "Our cult worships the elder ancestor Yintu every year. Every time we ask the elder ancestor to help us, the cult leader, we have to kneel and kowtow to him and beg him. Unless the lifeless cult is facing death, the elder ancestor won't do anything. The elder ancestor river Styx is our true elder ancestor. I can't even see him. Even if there is a decree, I can only kneel and accept it. I am so excited to be sent to monitor you, Yin Yang Demon Master, that I am willing to risk my life. I even want to enter the sinkhole. At this point, we can only take it one step at a time." Yuan Yu sighed and picked up the 3-foot-long white silk. He gestured at Shepherd Boy's neck. Seeing Shepherd Boy's frightened eyes, Yuan Yu could not help but say, "Old Two, why don't you do it?" The Shwetu King was a burly man. He had never cared about such things. He laughed boldly and said, "I'll do it." After Shepherd Boy woke up, he looked at the barren mountain that had not changed. He then looked at the helpless Baisujin, as well as the puzzled Ajadi and Yuan Yu who were studying him. Finally, there was the ferocious Shwetu, who was holding the white silk around his neck. He cried out in grievance, "If you want me to die, I will die." "Your Excellency is actually old Mother Lishan's brother and sister," the Shwetu King exclaimed. The Monkey King scratched his left hand and pointed at them, laughing. "Ah, don't you know that old Mother Lishan is also a female monkey? Back in the primal chaos, there was a fiend god called the Chaos Demon Ape. In a battle with the great god Pangu, he died of exhaustion. After his death, his chi turned into a ferocious beast of the ape family. Most of the ape divine beasts of the primal chaos came from his bloodline. Among them, the direct descendants of the chaos demon ape are known as the 4 chaotic monkeys. We're all brothers and sisters. Old Mother Lishan was the eldest senior sister of the Jies sect, the incongruence divine mother. When a Nuwa divine mother created humans, she was not familiar with it. So she came to me first to ask for the chaos demon ape's bloodline. Based on the appearance of the 4 chaotic monkeys, she created a hominoid that was half human and half monkey. Then, based on the Pangu true form, she created the human race. That hominoid was the incarnation of the incongruence divine mother, who was later known as the Old Mother of Mount Lishan. She was the first hominoid in the world. She looked half human and half ape. Later, as her cultivation deepened, she gradually took on a human form. Because of her, the demon race learned the secret of transforming into humans. The Old Mother of Mount Lishan created the demon race's cultivation method to transform into humans. Originally, she wanted to assimilate all the demons in the world into the human race. Therefore, it was not taboo to accept disciples. Even a little snake demon like you could become her disciple. Because she was originally half human and half ape, she was also half human and half demon. She represented the hominoid incarnation of demons that transformed into humans. She had a very special position among the demon race. Her true form was the incongruence Divine Mother, the eldest senior sister of the Jia sect. She had a wide network of connections, and her old acquaintances were all over the primal chaos. Moreover, she was highly respected in the Jia sect. Her other incarnation, the Ajati matriarch, was a great venerable of the divine path. Her foundation was extremely deep. Legend has it that the Ajati matriarch was an ancient deity from the same era as the Nuwa Divine Mother and Lady Hutu in the ancient divine path era. Later, she reincarnated and became the disciple of the Tongtian sect leader, becoming the eldest senior sister of the Mystic Doors Jia sect. My brothers and sisters are all descendants of the chaos demonic ape. I call myself the Monkey King. I'm a spiritual stone monkey. I'm proficient in transformations, know the weather, know the geography, and can move the stars. My second brother, the Tongtian Great Sage, is a long-armed ape. The Heavenly Tao Law, engraving the Heavenly Tao, establishing the basic laws of the primordial world, binding all living beings, and legislating for all living beings in the world. What kind of boldness is this? The demon emperor established the bloodline law. The emperor of heaven established the merit law. The Hutu established the reincarnation law. The river Styx established the evolution law. The emperor Wa established the creation law. The emperor Shi established the number of changes. The three pure ones established the immortal Tao. Sakya established the Sandgate law, to legislate for the world and the universe, to engrave order in the laws, so that all living beings will follow your laws. How did such a great undertaking come to an end in a single day? The Monkey King shook his head and smiled. Do you know that when Nuwa created humans, the world changed color and ghosts and gods cried? It was the primordial divine court that was crying. They were in pain because of the collapse of their bloodline law. Because the human race is a race without any restrictions and has unlimited potential. The human race's bloodline follows the great god Pangu. Who can surpass Pangu in the world? Therefore, in the bloodline law, the human race is an anomaly. The bloodline of the human race is not restricted by the bloodline law. But the human race was too weak at that time. Therefore, Lady Hutu stood up as the true descendant of Pangu. The 12 ancestors of witches led the witch race to destroy the bloodline law and severely damage the order established by the demon court. Then, Ancestor River Styx established the evolution law with the Avicii sword. Apart from the bloodline law, he opened the path of evolution for the demon race's bloodline, allowing the lowliest and most ordinary demon race to have a chance to walk to the end of the bloodline law. He continued to deal a heavy blow to the bloodline law established by the primordial divine court. After that, the Emperor of Heaven rose to power. During the Third War between the witch race and the demon race, he killed the demon emperor and personally destroyed the order of the heavenly Tao of the bloodline law. Now, there are only some remnants that still protect the traditional authority of the demon race. This kind of order that has already passed away and failed. What is there for me to protect and keep? The Monkey King laughed and said, if it fails, just sweep it into the trash. Why is there need to crawl out and struggle at death's door? Even if the demon race wants to rise again, they need to establish a new order of the heavenly Tao. Why must they walk the old path of the past? The few of them fell silent when they heard this. They silently followed Shepherd Boy's soul in front of them and arrived at a strange place. Shepherd Boy's soul was as weak as a mortal's. After it left his body, it was in a state of chaos. In the shadow world, it was pulled away for a long time before he snapped to his senses. He looked up and saw a tall, pitch-black mountain range in front of him. On the mountain range, there was a peach tree that blotted out the sky like the eastern Jinmu tree. Where is this? Shepherd Boy stood at the foot of the black mountain and felt extremely tiny. In front of him, there was an endless army of souls slowly entering the black mountain. The Monkey King said this is Mount Dusha. It's also known as Eam Mountain or Black Mountain. It's where the Ghost Gate is. The Ghost Gate is an extremely mystical connate numinous treasure. Therefore, this place is not located anywhere in the three realms. It exists in every corner of the three realms. After the soul leaves the body, it will be attracted by the Ghost Gate and come here. Behind the peach tree was indeed an indescribably gigantic door. Two gods that were as tall as black mountains stood under the peach tree. Their backs faced the Ghost Gate as they guarded the door to the underworld. The Monkey King produced an invisibility incantation to hide his body. He gestured for the others to hide as well. At the same time, he urged Shepherd Boy, "Quick, let's go. Don't let those two old men discover us." Shepherd Boy walked forward in a daze and blended into the massive army of souls. He was pushed forward towards the Ghost Gate. Just as he walked under the peach tree, he saw the god on his right suddenly lean down. He was extremely large, and one of his eyes was like a huge sun. The tiny Shepherd Boy was nothing in his eyes, but the god sized up the tiny Shepherd Boy who was like an ant. He rubbed his chin and mumbled, "Why do I smell like a monkey? There are also traces of the demonic path. Strange, strange. Shenshu, come over and take a look. This little guy is quite interesting." The other god also lowered his mountain-like head. Shepherd Boy felt uneasy under his gaze. After a moment, he mustered his courage and said, "Do the two gods have any problems? If there's no problem, I'm in a rush to reincarnate. There's no time to waste." Shinshu's voice caused the entire Eam Mountain to tremble. He said in a low, muffled voice, "Kid, you haven't reached the end of your lifespan. Why are you reincarnating? Kid, you are a little strange. In your previous life, I think you were Celestial Emperor Donghua's son. Did Celestial Emperor Donghua's son die?" Yulei mumbled. "Will he come to find trouble with us?" After Her Majesty Hutu went into seclusion, the heavenly courts has been busy. Every small matter will cause a ruckus and stir up reincarnation. If I had to say, let's kill that Chakra King and feed him to Divine Tiger. They have made the netherworld a mess. And that Ksiddhartha Bodhisattva, he's always up to no good. Kill him as well. When he passes by us one day, I'll go up and intercept him. Big brother, you hit the back of his head with an axe. Let him trick us and sneak into the netherworld. After tricking us into opening the gates of hell, he actually went to live in the netherworld. He's really bullying us brothers for having a good temper." Shunshu said in an evil tone. "I smell the scent of a demon." Yulei mumbled. "I'm afraid that River Styx is up to mischief again. Lower your voice. Don't mention that person's name." Back then, he tricked us into tying us up under the big peach tree and barged in to discuss the Tao with Her Majesty. After that, Her Majesty blamed us for a long time. "You were the most foolish to actually believe his words. You caused me to be blamed by Her Majesty," Shunshu said in a low voice. "You even said that back then, if you hadn't let Emperor of Heaven in." Yulei also grumbled in a low voice. Yuan Yu and company, who were hiding on Shepherd Boy's body, thought to themselves, "So it turns out that you two guards are leaking information everywhere. It's no wonder Monkey King dared to sneak into the gates of hell." Shepherd Boy took advantage of their whispered quarrel to quietly move towards the gates of hell. He was about to sneak in. At this moment, a huge axe blocked the path in front of him, like an iron wall blocking him. Yulei glanced at him and said, "Kid, you can go in, but put down the people on you." Shepherd Boy said in a trembling voice, "Who is it?" I don't know." The two gods stared at him and said, "You still want to deceive us." Back then, river Styx. After that, we paid close attention to the scent of those demon bastards. You can deceive others, but you can't deceive us brothers. If you say another word of falsehood, we will feed you to Divine Tiger. Whatever Celestial Lord Dong Hua's reputation is useless. Chapter 13:13. Under the peach tree, a divine tiger that was as large as a small mountain peeked its head out in excitement. The divine tiger had brownish-yellow fur, golden eyes, and a white forehead. As it walked, it brought with it an evil wind. This was the true nine Netherhell wind. If an ordinary immortal were to come into contact with it, their soul would be sucked away, turning into a member of the dense horde of ghosts behind it that resembled a black tide. Although the divine tiger was mighty, it was only a kitten in front of the two gods that were as tall as the pillars of the heavens. It seemed to understand the words of the two gods, Shintu and Yulei, but when it saw Shepherd Boy's tiny body that was about to dissipate with a gust of wind, its expectant gaze immediately turned to disappointment. It placed its two large furry paws under its chin and found a comfortable position to lie down. It lazily looked at Shepherd Boy and the two gods. When it looked up, its eyes seemed to be filled with disdain. When Shinta saw its expression, he immediately said angrily, "What's with that look of yours? You bastard! When we carried you here, you were only the size of kitten. That enlightened beast of the Queen Mother of the West gave birth to a freak like you with only one head. She didn't want you, so she gave you to our Queen Mother, who handed you over to us to raise. Other than the ghost peach tree that only produces peaches, there is nothing to eat in the gates of hell. We used the evil spirits that wanted to escape the gates of hell to raise you. We raise you with shit and piss until now, hoping that you would help guard the door. Now all you do is eat and sleep. You're even picky. In the past few years, other than the big ghosts and the Ghost King, you haven't eaten any of the small ghosts or evil spirits. You're as fat as a pig." Yulei slammed his axe into the ground, brushing past the divine tiger's head before sinking into the ground. "If this goes on, what's the point of raising you? Why don't we kill you and eat your meat?" The divine tiger leaped up and opened its mouth to roar. It pretended to bite at Shepherd Boy. Shindo hurriedly grabbed its mouth and forcefully closed it. He scolded, "This is a kid from Celestial Lord Dong Hua's family. He's not someone you can eat as you please. And all of you, when are you going to hide? Come out." With that said, he patted the divine tiger in his hand. The divine tiger's golden eyes shot out a beam of divine light that nailed Shepherd Boy. Yuan Yu and the others had nowhere to hide, so they could only reveal themselves. At that moment, Shun Tu's divine tiger leapt up from the ground and excitedly stared at the group, saliva slowly dripping from its mouth as it looked up at great god Shin Tu expectantly, its two hill-sized claws constantly pulling at Shin Tu's trousers. Great god Shin Tu pulled up his trousers and glared at the group, two demon brats, one heavenly master Dara of the mystic door, and one little enchantress. Strange, strange. How did you all get together? Were you plotting to infiltrate hell?" Hearing his words, Yuan Yu looked left and right and was shocked. The great sage, heaven's equal, had disappeared. All of them had been seen through by the gatekeeper, Shun Tu Yulei, but that damn monkey had actually disappeared without a trace at this moment. Bai Sujin was still the most responsible. She faced the two great gods, Shintu and Yulei, and gently said, "This little girl is Bai Sujin. I was originally a little demon cultivating under the goddess of Mount Li. I pay my respects to the two great gods. So you are a subordinate of the goddess of Mount Li. Things are getting more and more interesting. Two demon children under the Nether River Patriarch, a celestial master of the Celestial Gate, and a little demon under the Old Mother of Mount Li were following the son of the Celestial Court's Celestial Emperor Dong Hua to sneak into the Netherworld. This was big trouble. Fortunately, this god's eyes can see through the three realms. Tell me, do you want to subvert the three realms or reverse reincarnation?" Bai Sujin's beautiful face turned pale. Why did these two great gods look so strange? She still explained, reporting to the great gods, This little demon was originally an ordinary demon spirit, but because of a misfortune, I was inadvertently involved in the plot of the 7 great sages of the demon clan to assassinate the heavenly court's Prince Mu. In order not to implicate others, I brought the prince here to seek medical treatment. As for the 2 fellow Taoists from the Devil Path, Bai Sujin raised her head again and looked at Shui Tuesday. Wu Sheng's eyes were a little surprised and doubtful. Shui Tu and Wu Sheng were also helpless. Who asked the Devil Path to have such a bad reputation? Everyone instinctively did not trust them. Heaven have mercy, they, the Devil Path, had not done anything disgraceful. Resisting deceit, slaughtering all living beings, killing decisively, turning hostile, scheming, bullying the kind, and fearing the evil. These were all the traditions of the Devil Path. Traditions? Why didn't all living beings in the primitive land know how to respect each other? As for the 2 fellow Taoists from the Devil Path, they are Prince Mu's friends. After knowing the whereabouts of Prince Mu, they escorted us to the gate of hell. I'm not familiar with them. Great God Yulei touched his chin and said, Emperor Donghua's family is very strict. He has always strictly ordered his family not to make friends with bandits. I didn't expect his son to make friends with 2 Devil Path people. How daring. He will not have a good ending when he goes back. This time, you saved him, but I'm afraid you will be sent into reincarnation by Emperor Donghua again next time. Also, you people from the Devil Path are around the prince. There must be some conspiracy. What about this heavenly master of the mystic door? Did he discover the conspiracy of the Devil Path and come to investigate? This, Yuan Yu said embarrassedly. The Shuetu king said gloomily, Open your eyes. This is the Yin Yang demon master of our Devil Path. He is here on the orders of the River Styx demon ancestor to stir up something big. Don't you know? Knowing too much. You will die. You are threatening me. Great God Yulei's eyes widened. Shin Tu whispered in his ear, This is not the first time that River Styx has stirred up something big. If you get involved, you'll not end well. Don't forget the last time he came to the underworld. We can't afford to offend River Styx. Let them go quietly. Anyway, the goddess is not in charge anymore. The property of the underworld is not worth it for us to risk our lives. River Styx is stirring up something big again. I'm afraid this time he is going to destroy the entire underworld. Well done. Maybe it is the goddess's intention. We are blind and ruin the goddess's plan. Yulei rolled his eyes and felt that it was not worth arguing with them. The 2 of us are just gatekeepers. When the goddess is here, we can do our best, but now the heavenly court doesn't treat us as one of their own. Why should we go through the trouble for them? And this time, the youngest son of Emperor Donghua is also involved. Who knows, we might be asking for trouble if we meddle in other people's business. The 2 great gods exchanged glances and felt that there was no need to get involved in this mess. But I can't lose face. Great God Yulei made up his mind and said, I just need to scare them. He immediately stood up and looked at them coldly like a pillar supporting the sky. Such big words. Generally speaking, demon cubs with such big words are used to feed Divine Tiger. When the huge Divine Tiger heard this, he quickly stood up and stared at the few people excitedly, salivating. He trod on the ground with small, quick steps, and his meaty paws were silent, showing his excitement. The Ghost Gate often had great ghosts who wanted to kill their way into the world of the living, so there was no shortage of food. However, ghosts were full of vitality, but their stomachs were not full. Even after eating a lot, their stomachs were still empty. Divine Tiger had long been looking forward to the arrival of 2 flesh and blood. But as soon as Yulei's tone changed, Divine Tiger's mood dropped visibly, and he looked at Shun Tu with a hint of resentment in his eyes. Damn it, every time you say feed me, why don't you feed me? There is true love in the world. Seeing the world-shaking love between Imperial Prince Mu and this little white snake, even this god, who has a heart of stone that has been cold for thousands of eons, couldn't help but be moved. What a touching feeling this is, one that transcends all obstacles. The high and mighty heavenly court's imperial prince is actually moved by a little snake monster from the mortal world. In order to save her lover, This white snake did not hesitate to break into the underworld and reverse the cycle of reincarnation, violating the taboo of life and death, breaking through the barrier between heaven and earth. What kind of love is this? How can this God not be moved? Go in. Today, this God will give you a way out. Bai Sujin wore a dazed look on her face as she stared blankly at Shun Tu and Yulei, who were imagining a lot of things, and thought to herself, I don't have any relationship with Imperial Prince Mu. Two seniors, why would great God say that? Could it be our actions are very misunderstood? Little Qing, Xiao Qing, I went out on this trip, and I found you a brother-in-law just like that? Could the fated person that Her Majesty, the Holy Mother, mentioned be referring to this fate? For a moment, Bai Sujin's heart was in a mess. On the other hand, Xuetu, Wu Sheng, Yuan Yu, and company looked calm. They had seen through it, but did not say it out loud. They squeezed out a few tears and pretended to be moved, as if they had not yet had their sexual intercourse. They surrounded Bai Sujin and Shepherd Boy and walked towards the gates of hell. The divine tiger behind them looked as if the sky had collapsed. He looked at them reluctantly as they walked towards the gates of hell. Yulei whispered to Shun Tu, See, this brother's still quite quick-witted. The divine tiger quietly got up and slipped into the gates of hell. Shun Tu Yulei glanced at him and ignored him. Although the divine tiger was gluttonous, it still knew what was good for it. It never touched people that Shun Tu Yulei did not allow it to touch. Now, it was probably going to catch a few big ghosts to satisfy its hunger. The divine tiger slipped into the gates of hell and quietly put down the Monkey King on its back. The Monkey King climbed down from the divine tiger, scratched its orange fur, and said to it, I have to thank you again this time. Next time, I'll bring you more blood food from the human world. You have to save the peaches from the ghost peach tree for me. The divine tiger nodded its big head and nudged the Monkey King. It jumped a few steps back and then looked back at the Monkey King. The Monkey King nodded, indicating that it remembered everything. Then, it ran towards the direction of hell without looking back. Wu Sheng, Xuetu, and the others passed through the gates of hell, where it was pitch black. The underworld was formerly known as Yudu City, and, as the name suggested, it was a place without light. Before reincarnation began, the ghosts crowded in Yudu City, devouring each other. They were extremely hungry and pitiful. Only when it was dark could they break into the human world and devour humans. When Empress Hutu saw this, she pitted the living beings of the world of the living and the ghosts of Yudu City. She sent Earth Count into Yudu City to establish order and sent Shun Tu Yulei to guard the gates of hell to prevent the ghosts of Yudu City from going to the world of the living to devour humans. Finally, in order to reduce the pain of all living beings after death and to give their souls a home to return to, Empress Hutu sacrificed herself to create reincarnation, opening the end of death for all living beings. The reincarnation opened up a quiet, warm, and tranquil home for the souls of all living beings. It was no longer like the time in Yudu City where the ghosts could only devour each other and suffer constant torture until their souls were destroyed. Yuan Yu and the others hadn't even walked halfway when they saw the Monkey King waiting in front of them. They instantly felt that the seventh great sage of the demon race was incomparably mysterious. He could even sneak into the gates of hell without being discovered by the two great gods guarding the gates. Chapter 13-14. In the netherworld, rumors spread the fastest. The continuous mountain range was barren. In the dark and lightless netherworld, blood-red magma seeped through the cracks in these barren mountains. The magma emitted a dark red glow, illuminating a weak light. The ground beneath their feet was char-black. After walking for a while, the group realized that the netherworld wasn't completely desolate and silent. A black river meandered through the mountains. Strange blood-red flowers bloomed on both sides of the river. These strange blood-red flowers glowed faintly. The light from each flower wasn't dazzling, but when they gathered together, they formed a blood-red river that was formed from a sea of flowers along the two sides of the Black River. The water of this river is the blue sky underworld. Xuetu King said faintly. The The blooming flowers on both sides are the red spider lilies. The blue sky underworld has a strange, purifying ability. It can wash away almost all filth. Anything that falls into it will be assimilated by the blue sky underworld. Therefore, don't underestimate this river because it looks inconspicuous. In fact, it's extremely dangerous. This river, formed by the convergence of the blue sky underworld and meandering through more than half of the netherworld, is the river Styx. The river Styx patriarch's river Styx. Ajati warned solemnly. The purifying power of the blue sky underworld can purify the world's most complicated, filthiest, and stubborn entanglements. In other words, the karma of all living beings, love, hate, and the 8 sufferings of the human world. Everything that falls into it will be forgotten and purified, returning to the purest form of living beings. In the demon ancestors' imagination, reincarnation shouldn't exist in the world. There should only be the river Styx and the Een soil. When the souls of all living beings fall into the river Styx, under the cleansing of the blue sky underworld, all karma will be washed away, returning to the purest essence of the soul. Then they will sleep in the Een soil, slowly decomposing, nurturing, and being reborn. Their memories, love, and hate, karma, and all their unwillingness float away with the heaven underworld. Those unforgettable things, those feelings of love and hate nourish the spider lilies by the shore, becoming the most beautiful scenery in the world. In Demon Ancestor's personal notes, it was mentioned that at that time, what Demon Ancestor wanted the most was to cross the ocean and experience all the love and hate in the world. Then, he would step into the river Styx and let it slowly fade away. It's a pity that Empress Hoodoo doesn't appreciate Demon Ancestor's way of thinking. So the river Styx that Demon Ancestor opened up became something that cleanses the karma of the souls that come here. After all, Empress Hoodoo is a god. She takes too much pity on the fear of death that all living beings have towards death. However, because Shintayule is guarding it, and there is a divine tiger under the tree that feeds on ghosts, no ghost can eat it. But I have a way to get that batch of peaches. I am going to use that as the capital to borrow a batch of incense from the heavenly lord of primordial unity and salvation to operate my Monkey King coin. How about it? Are the few of you interested? Peaches as collateral? Shwetu shook his head like a wheel as he secretly cursed. This isn't a monkey. What's the use of peaches as collateral? Bai Sujin also had a look of politeness as she whispered, Great sage, I'm not dead yet. I can slowly accumulate the money of the underworld in the world of the living. Only a ghost would speculate in money. Yuan Yu sneered and said, You should sell your Monkey King coin to a ghost. If you can scam a ghost, then so be it. Shepherd Boy lay on the bow of the boat as he watched the boat sail past the black mountains along the river Styx. Gradually, it entered the plains of the underworld. There were many villages that were scattered along the banks of the river Styx. However, the ghosts seemed to be afraid of the river Styx. Although the villages were close to the banks, the ghosts did not dare to approach the sea of spider lilies. Shepherd Boy could only see the faint shadows from afar. As the boat went deeper, more and more strange ghosts appeared in front of them. There were small blue ghosts that only reached a human's calf. There were ghosts with horns on their heads. As more and more ghosts appeared, there were those with leopard tails, bird beaks, fish gills, and those that looked like wasps. There were also large ghosts with green faces and fangs, ghosts that looked like mountain spirits, and mountain ghosts that looked like scarlet raccoons. There were also those with cow heads and horse faces. They were half human and half beast with bald hair and fangs. They were extremely strange and strange. Shepherd Boy exclaimed, Are these all ghosts? I thought ghosts were the same as when they were alive. Shwetu King shook his head and said, They are ghosts. They are living beings of the underworld, not souls. There are living beings in the underworld. Bai Sujin was taken aback. She felt that the creatures of the underworld sounded odd. It was previously mentioned that the fear of death of the souls of living beings created twisted monsters in the darkness of Yudu City. These living beings are the descendants of the souls and monsters. In the end, it is something created by the demon ancestor. It involves one of the 9 questions of the netherworld. When the demon ancestor and Her Majesty Hutu discussed the Tao, they used monsters and dead spirits to create living beings that could reproduce in the underworld. Her Majesty Hutu could not bear to seal them in the realm of freedom, so she allowed them to reproduce in the underworld. In the end, it became a world of ghosts. Thankfully, although they have long lifespans, they only have yin lifespans and not yang lifespans. Furthermore, their reproductive abilities are extremely poor, so at least they did not overrun the place. Chapter 13-15. It's really lively. Shepherd Boy praised. It doesn't seem bad to die here. The environment is quite good. Baisujin and company took the small boat deeper into the underworld. Along the way, the river Styx converged into tributaries. The river became wider and wider, and gradually it was tens of thousands of miles wide. A small boat with a black awning was in the middle of the river Styx. On the surging water, it was like a lone sail that had fallen into the Yangtze River. It had a feeling that it could capsize at any time. Baisujin became more and more alarmed. The river Styx surged with unbelievably vast divine might. She saw extremely powerful souls being swept in from the river Styx from time to time. Then, a few waves would wash them into the purest souls without any impurities. From time to time, tributaries of the river Styx would flow into the main stream that they were on. The surging was the purest and most powerful force in the world. It made Baisujin's heart palpitate. She was a tiny white snake, but she had the qualities of a flood dragon. She could move the water. However, in front of one of the 3 largest rivers in the world, Baisujin could only feel how tiny she was. Along the way, they saw that there were countless dead spirits and living beings mixed in the underworld. The ghosts that did not enter the cycle of reincarnation and the ghosts of the underworld lived together. They built countless ghost cities. There were also countless shadows cast by the divine territories of the Yang realm on the Yin lands. Many of the treasured lands where the Qi of the primordial world gathered also cast their shadows on the Yin lands. These spiritual lands and the divine territories were also known as blessed lands. The gods Dharmakaya sat in the middle of the blessed land. From time to time, the god would stare at the small boat that Baisujin was on. They also saw countless powerful ghosts stirring up havoc. Many powerful ghosts that made even their hearts palpitate were fighting each other. Along the way, they saw peaceful ghost villages and chaotic ghosts fighting each other. They saw these things from time to time. Shepherd Boy was somewhat puzzled. Monkey King seemed to notice his puzzlement. Why? Do you think it's different from the netherworld you imagined? Shepherd Boy nodded his head in embarrassment. Monkey King sighed. The primordial world is too big. Even the heavenly courts can't manage it. How many years will it take for the Milky Way Navy to patrol the primordial world? The netherworld was not inferior to the untainted world, so how could the underworld manage it? Although some people call this the netherworld, as if they can see the netherworld once they enter. What a joke. How many people in the primordial world have seen the heavenly courts before? Of course, it's the same for the underworld. Reincarnation has its own rules. Reincarnation is at the bottom of the sea where the river Styx converges. Therefore, as long as the souls of the primeval times are thrown into the river Styx, they will naturally be washed clean and enter reincarnation. When Queen Hutu ruled the netherworld, the river Styx was responsible for transporting souls from the primordial world to Samsara. At that time, after the people of the primordial world died, their souls were led by the river Styx and fell into the river, floating in the blue sky underworld. The spider lilies on both sides of the river were countless times more beautiful than they are now. After that, at that time, the gates of hell were a path for the living beings that entered the netherworld. The souls of the dead were guided by the river Styx. Later, the Emperor of Heaven merged the netherworld into the heavenly courts. He created the road to the netherworld and snatched the souls of all living beings from the guidance of the river Styx. He perfected the authority of the netherworld and brought the death of all living beings under the rule of the heavenly courts. Of course, it cannot be said that the Emperor of Heaven had selfish motives, because in the beginning, the netherworld was indeed selfless in managing the matter of samsara. It was also at that time that the netherworld became like a world. The Emperor of Heaven was benevolent. He allowed those who died to enjoy 100 times longer lifespan in the netherworld. The heavenly courts lacked talents to manage the primordial world. The Emperor of Heaven used the merit dharma to promote the candidates of God from the ghosts as the foundation for the heavenly courts to rule the primordial world. Without the road to the netherworld and the souls of all living beings as talent reserves, the heavenly courts would never be able to stabilize their foundation. In the beginning, the heavenly courts lacked talents to the point that the Emperor of Heaven had no choice but to allow those who did not have enough merit to temporarily serve as temporary gods in the netherworld. They waited for their descendants to accumulate merit for them before promoting them to the heavenly courts. At that time, although the netherworld had broken away from the natural operation of the river Styx and reincarnation, and the orbit that the demon ancestor of the river Styx and goddess Hoodoo had set for it, it still operated stably and maintained its orbit. That was the general trend of the Emperor of Heaven stripping the local authority and the heavenly courts collecting the authority of the primordial world. I can't complain. However, after the Emperor of Heaven merged with the Tao, the merit dharma was flawed. The heavenly courts were in chaos, and most of the laws set by the Emperor of Heaven were abolished. There were flaws in the road to the netherworld that led the souls of all living beings and the bridge of helplessness that crossed the river Styx. He was just about to teach these two arrogant newbies a lesson for ruining the reputation of the demonic path. Then he thought again. That's not right. What reputation do we, demonic cultivators, have? Isn't this how it should be? Is it wrong to plunder souls? Wrong. In the laws and order of the heavenly court, it was a huge mistake. They were just criticizing the heavenly court, and in the blink of an eye, someone was plundering souls. It was like criticizing the government for being muddle-headed and incompetent, and in the blink of an eye, there were two accomplices blocking the way, but they were demonic cultivators. Wasn't this what they were doing? They, the demonic cultivators, had never thought of competing for the business of the heavenly court. It was like a group of bandits criticizing the government and then blocking the way to rob, burn, and kill. Was that wrong? It was their job. It wasn't like they were preparing to rebel. The Shui-Tu king came to his senses. He had been acting as a righteous cultivator for too long, and he was still in a daze. After he came to his senses, he patted the shoulders of the two rising stars of the demonic path and said, "Well done. I admire you. I have something good for you. I will bring you two to do something big. Go to the bridge of helplessness and force the tens of millions of souls that he brewed. If the underworld isn't prepared, we will go to hell and do something big." Bai Sujin's expression changed drastically. She pulled on the sleeve of the Monkey King and said, "Great sage, this person has finally revealed his true colors. Saving Prince Mu was an act. Plundering the underworld is the real thing." The Monkey King pulled the Shui-Tu over and said, "What do you think? Tell her." The Shui-Tu King scratched his head and laughed coldly. "Of course I know that business is more important. Don't we have two helpers? When the time comes, we can let the two of them create chaos, and it will be more convenient for us to act. Even if the situation is not good, we will have someone to back us up. Moreover, after they are captured, they will mislead the underworld so that they won't know what we are here for." Did you hear that? The two guarding the gates of hell didn't say anything and leaked our information. Now, we have to make sure that it is the demonic path that is stirring up trouble. Otherwise, when the information about Prince Mu is leaked, we will be in real trouble. At that time, Imperial Emperor Ziyang's faction in the underworld, as well as the demon race, the Buddhist sect, and the mystic door will all come for us. Yuan Yu said faintly, when we saw Shintu and Yulei, we should know that they don't keep their mouths shut. The Ajati thought for a moment and sighed. That's true. When we came, we heard them saying everything. Something about the Emperor of Heaven. Something about the old ancestor tying them to a tree. How could such people be sent by the Empress to guard the gates? Could it be that the Empress gave the order in Yudu City? It's so dark that I can't see what kind of people they are. In any case, Shintu and Yulei have talked a lot of nonsense. Instead of letting them talk about Prince Mu, it is better to pretend that they are from the demonic path. In any case, the Blood Sea is very close to the netherworld, and the underworld has long been accustomed to the demonic path coming here to burn, kill, and loot. Recently, 90% of the Blood Sea Azura clan's newborn population was transformed from the souls of those he brewed and robbed. Yuan Yu said calmly, "Can't you call more people? This amount of cannon fodder is not enough. There is no time for me to find people now. Let's just take one." Xuetu's face showed no shame, and he didn't feel guilty at all for tricking his fellow demonic path disciples. Even if he admired these two daring demonic path rookies, it didn't prevent Xuetu from using them. Even the two demons, although their eyes showed suspicion, didn't object. According to the tradition of the demonic path, one set on the surface, another set behind the scenes. Whichever set they played, they played. Now, the two demonic path rookies obviously couldn't play hard, so no matter what Xuetu said on the surface, they could only obey. Bai Sujin, who was listening on the side, looked like she was on the verge of collapse. It seemed that she had underestimated the demonic path's moral integrity, which was really unfathomable. You don't belong to this era. What the monarch wants to know is, what do you want? Yuan Yu and Xuetu fell silent. Yes, they didn't belong to this era. Why did they have to choose a position that had no hope? The heavenly court was destined to be destroyed. The bell of chaos was about to ring. They only needed to escape before the bell rang. What Prince Mu, Bai Sujin, they were all destined to die in this era. They were the ashes of the era. What was the point of their life and death? What did the chaos of the heavenly court have to do with them? Why did they have to choose a side? Even if they had to choose a side, why didn't they choose spiritual master Ziyang, who was still on the chaotic sea? This is only history. Zhou Jian smiled sinisterly. Does everything here have any meaning to you? Is there any meaning to you helping Prince Mu? To stop the conflict between humans and demons and avert this calamity? That's really merciful. Are you sure you are the direct descendants of the demon sect, and not the spies of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva? The human race and the monster race both need a war. At this time, war is already unavoidable. When the seven sages decided to rebel, this conflict was destined to be unavoidable. Have any of you ever seen a war that can be delayed after it has become the common goal of several parties? This war isn't just because Prince Mu was assassinated. It's because everyone needs war, and that's why Prince Mu was assassinated. Even without Prince Mu, there will still be Prince Bo-jun, Prince Zhongjun. The big shot behind me needs war. The monster race needs war. Even the person behind Prince Mu, Emperor Zhuanxu, needs war. Those who want to stop the conflict between humans and demons, by Sujin, Prince Mu, they are insignificant. This is history. It is meaningless to you all. You didn't come to this era to change this calamity, right? Since you came from the future, you should know that this calamity cannot be changed, right? Then, what reason do you have to meddle in this muddy water? That's all I have to say. I'm Zhou Juyan, the master of Zhou Juyan's celestial palace of Luoho Six Heavens. If you listen to me, when the armies of Zhou Juyan's celestial palace, Tranquil celestial palace, and Zongling's Seven Faith celestial palace arrive, there should only be the unforgivable evil demon by Sujin and the lone ghost disguised as Prince Mu. If there are other accomplices, kill them all. Zhou Juyan waved his hand coldly. A cold light appeared in his hand, bringing with it endless coldness. After he finished speaking, he turned around without hesitation. He didn't look back, as if he didn't care about Yuan Yu and the other's choice. Because he was the head of Luoho Six Heavens, the master of Zhou Juyan Celestial Palace.